Hello and thank you for joining us today. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the 1970 UNESCO Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property. For its anniversary, Blue Shield Germany and students from BTU Cottbus are conducting interviews of notable members in the cultural heritage field as part of a social media campaign. The interviews will allow us to gain different international perspectives when discussing the fight against illicit trafficking. We are joined today by Mr. Joe King from ICROM. Hello, Joe, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us. It is a pleasure to have you with us today. Before we begin, I'd also take a few minutes to introduce myself. My name is Mitali Gupta. I'm from New Delhi, India. I'm an architect by profession, currently doing a master course in World Heritage Studies from Brandenburg University of Technology, Cottbus, Germany. It is indeed also a pleasure to take this opportunity to introduce ICROM. ICROM, International Center for the Study of Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property, is an intergovernmental organization working in service to its member states to promote conservation of all forms of cultural heritage in every region of the world. It operates in the spirit of 2001 UNESCO Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity. The only institution of its kind in the world, ICROM is an intergovernmental organization with a vast network of conservation experts. It has institutional collaborations with organizations such as UNESCO, to which it is also an advisory body. Non-governmental organizations such as ICOMOS, ICOM, ICA, and IIC, and scientific institutes and universities in the member states. I welcome you again, Joe. To begin with, could you tell us a bit about the role of ICROM in relation to the 1970 UNESCO Convention?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. And before I begin, I would actually like to take the opportunity to thank Blue Shield Germany for the opportunity to speak with you today on this, what I consider to be very important topic. As you know, unlike the World Heritage Convention, and in fact, actually just a precision to your introduction, ICROM is an advisory body to UNESCO, but specifically for the 1972 World Heritage Convention. But unlike that convention, ICROM does not have any direct statutory links to the 1970 convention. Nevertheless, that does not mean that we have not or we do not take this important convention into our work on conservation of heritage. As you know, one of ICROM's main mandates is on capacity building for the conservation of both movable, immovable and movable heritage. And the 1970 convention and the issue of illicit traffic has therefore always been a part of our capacity building courses and seminars that we have carried out over the years. In fact, I can actually say that my own knowledge of the 1970 convention comes from my attendance almost 30 years ago at an ICROM course on architectural conservation. Although that course focused obviously on architecture, the course also presented the history and theory of conservation and also the international context for conservation. And within that, of course, the 1970 convention, which was only 20 years old at the time, we're much further along now, but the 70 convention was a part of that discussion. Furthermore, in a unit within that course called risk preparedness, which would now be called disaster risk management, but at the time it was called risk preparedness, the issue of illicit traffic in regard specifically to post-disaster and post-conflict was also discussed. So, so this important topic of illicit traffic has always played a role in ICROM's capacity building activities, both in relation to objects, museum-related courses, but also courses related to buildings and sites and monuments. In more recent years, however, we have begun to focus more closely on the topic. So for example, in 2008, we launched a program called LATAM, which was focused on issues related to conservation of cultural heritage in the Latin America region. And that program was developed in a participatory manner with professionals from the region, and they decided to create 5 working groups within this program. One of them was on training, one of them was on developing indicators for economic development related to heritage, one of them was on translation into Spanish, because it's a Latin American program. But one of them was actually related specifically to the issue of illicit traffic. And that was at the time considered to be a very important issue in Latin America, and one that they wanted to have a deeper understanding of and develop tools and means of combating illicit traffic. And toward that end, we actually carried out a seminar on that topic in 2009 in Argentina, and there were also a number of other activities that we carried out within that program. Now, more recently, we've taken this back up again in our program called First Aid and Resilience in times of crisis. And we have dealt with illicit traffic in our training that it takes place, which has what we call multi-actors. Different people with different backgrounds come for these courses on first aid. So it includes heritage professionals, but it also includes disaster risk professionals and also potentially law enforcement actors, a whole wide range of actors. And that course focuses, or part of it at least, focuses on issues related to documentation and providing tools for recording basic data related to that heritage. And so that's actually very relevant to the 1970 convention and its implementation. As a result of those courses, we have developed guidelines on what we call evacuation of collections in times of emergency. And there's a publication with UNESCO on that. And my understanding is that they are guidelines that are actually well used by security forces to mitigate issues related to looting, looting and illicit traffic. And these guidelines are actually now available in 10 languages. Or actually maybe even more than 10, I think, at this point. I think we've just done another one. So that's another area that we've worked on. We've also carried out a specific course on the topic called First Aid to Cultural Heritage for Preventing Illicit Traffic in Times of Crisis. This was carried out last year, 2019, at our regional office in Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates. This course was carried out in partnership specifically with Interpol. And the aim was to build capacity of specialized police units to protect heritage from damage and looting during emergencies. And it was attended by 25 representatives from police authorities from around the world. And this is also now leading to the creation of some guideline documents in this area. Finally, the last thing I would mention in this regard is that our regional office in Sharjah has also been working with its member states from the Arab states region on strengthening of legal frameworks of all kinds in protection of the cultural heritage of the region. So, of course, the 1970 convention and the issue of illicit traffic is one of the important topics of discussion during the work that they're carrying out on this issue of strengthening legal frameworks. And there have been recommendations that have been made in relation to capacity building, specifically for judicial proceedings, for repatriation of looted or illegally exported artifacts, as well as dealing with just issues related to inventorying and documentation of museum collections, which actually helps to protect them from being looted and illicitly transported elsewhere. So essentially, again, to sum up, ICCROM's role in this is really more capacity building, but we are trying to do that in a variety of different ways through courses and through developing guidance documents and dealing with a variety of different target audiences who may be related to the 1970 convention.
Thank you so much for this elaborative description and also highlighting the role of ICCROM by giving us so many examples, especially the role of ICCROM in capacity building, which most of us are very well aware of, and the efforts that they are putting towards the convention. So my next question to you is about the work I believe you have been involved with. Since you work with different conventions, it will also be great if you could highlight the synergies between 1970 and the 1972 convention for us.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually a really interesting question. I think, to be honest, in the past, there probably wasn't as much synergy as I think there probably should have been. But I get a sense now within UNESCO and within the heritage field as a whole that we're trying to create more synergies between the various conventions at UNESCO. And again, also amongst the various sectors of conservation in society as a whole. So this includes I would say, synergies between movable and immovable heritage, which is 1970 and 1972, also tangible and intangible, and also cultural heritage and natural heritage. And I think that there are links between all of these different sectors. And I think that we need to be thinking about those interlinkages as much as possible in such a way that we make it easier for the various conventions to function as conventions, but also to make it easier for the people on the ground who are having to deal with all of these different conventions to be working together. And so I think it is actually a very important issue to consider. It's interesting because just prior to this interview, I was sitting in on a webinar related to something called the Globally Important Agricultural Heritage Systems. GEAS is what it's called, and it's a program of the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization. And what it does is it looks at heritage agricultural landscapes. And within those landscapes, the truth of the matter is that you've got immovable heritage, you've got the land and the landscape, which is a part of that. You've got objects, you've got agricultural objects that are important parts of that system and how it's used. And you've got intangible knowledge that's also a part of that, the knowledge of agricultural systems. And each of those pieces is an important part of this overall heritage. And I think in a way we do ourselves a disservice when we try to divide these up into different areas and not have linkages between them. Now I do think that in recent past we've gotten a little bit better on that. If I look at places, for example, in Mali, if I look at the World Heritage Property in Timbuktu in Mali, I think you saw there issues within that conflict that were related to the destruction of parts of the World Heritage Property, but that also were related to important objects, books, really important manuscripts and things like that. And I think in that case, for example, I think we started to work a little bit more closely between the conventions. And I think that that's something that we need to be doing more of in the future. I think that's also true in places like Syria, for example, and in places like Yemen. So I think we have to look specifically at the conflict situations and look at how they can feed both the destruction of World Heritage sites, but also the illicit traffic of artifacts coming from those sites, be they objects or sometimes also be they pieces of buildings actually that have been removed from buildings and actually also then become objects that then get traded as part of illicit traffic. So I think there's a strong possibility for interlinkage there. The other thing that I would want to mention here, though, is it's not just those two conventions that we should be looking at. We should also, for example, be looking at the 1954 Hague Convention. And its two protocols, because I think those are also very much related to the illicit traffic problem, let's say, and also the destruction of World Heritage sites. So to me, the key is actually developing those synergies, I would say, within all of these conventions. And if you think about it, they have common aspects to them. They all talk about documentation of the heritage. How is it carried out? How is it stored? How do we keep it? How do we use it then to protect the sites in the future? They all talk about legal frameworks. The World Heritage Convention, is talking about having countries developing, proper national legal frameworks to be able to protect their World Heritage properties. The 1970 Convention is looking at legal frameworks in relation to the illicit traffic. This 54 Convention in relation to destruction during times of conflict. So again, I see a very strong possibility for creating better synergies between these conventions, and I really think it's up to us who are working on them to build those synergies in a better way. And again, and I'll close with this: I think we owe it to the people on the ground, because I think the people at sites don't distinguish between, well, this is a World Heritage site, so I have to do it this way, and this is an important object for my community or for my culture, and so I have to protect this in another way. The fact of the matter is that they look at it all themselves in an integrated manner, and I think we, at the level that we're at, need to understand that better, and we need to be working with them, people in communities, people at the national level in communities, to to create those better synergies. So, so I think we've started to do it, but I think we have a long way to go actually in the future.
Thank you so much. One of the noteworthy points that you said, and I really appreciate it, is not only looking at the synergies between the convention, but also the concepts that the convention depict. And talking about nature culture involving communities is something that we need to look, especially in today's time. And I should again mention that ICCROM is doing its own efforts. And as you mentioned, that today, especially in the present times, we need to look at these synergies quite critically. Lastly, could you also please give us a concluding statement of why the convention is important to you and for your own work?
Well, yes. I mean, actually, this is essentially a summary of what I've said already, what I've already said to a certain extent. The 1970 Convention, combating illicit traffic, is, I think, a very important aspect of the conservation of cultural heritage. And I think, you know, as the field becomes more integrated and as we start looking at the heritage more as a single entity, not dividing it between objects and sites and monuments and landscapes and intangible heritage. I think the 1970 Convention is going to become more and more important for all of us. I mean, I know for me in my work, as I said, when we do capacity building in cultural heritage conservation, this issue related to illicit traffic is something that is a very important aspect of the work that we do, and I think it really is important for all of us to recognize these interlinkages and the relationships between them. So I would say, just in conclusion, that ICCROM as an organization which deals with conservation of both movable and immovable heritage actually looks forward to working with our counterparts within the 1970 Convention, as we already do within the 1972 Convention, for better conservation, protection, and transmission to future generations of our cultural heritage.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Joe. I really appreciate it, and it was really great talking to you and taking your interview.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to do it, and I hope to see you all sometime soon, once the COVID emergency ends for us all.
I'll just give a concluding note to all the viewers. Please make sure to visit the links provided below this video to watch more interviews with international organizations and actors in the heritage field to learn more about the diverse perspectives on illicit trafficking.